Okay, I have here two verbs, porto, portare, and dormio, dormire. They do not belong to the same conjugation. And there's a reason I chose two verbs that aren't the same conjugation. Because now we're going to do perfect tense, and perfect tense follows the same steps and is formed the exact same way regardless of conjugation. Even for irregular verbs, the regular verbs will act the exact same way as these two verbs do. Okay, so what is our first step? The first thing we need to do is to find the stem, but it's important to note that this stem is not the same as the stem that we used in present or imperfect tense. That stem was found from the infinitive, and you see it in the present tense and imperfect, and the perfect tense stem comes from a different place. It comes from the third principal part of the dictionary definition. This is the most important step and the one that most students forget. They use the stem that they're used to finding for present tense or imperfect tense, and then they put the endings on that, and that won't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to completely ignore porto, portare. We're also going to completely ignore the forms dormio and dormire. Because in order to form the perfect tense, the only thing we care about is the third principal part. And in fact, this is going to be our very first form. So you can take this one and copy it right into the first box. So I'm going to take portavi, and that is actually the first person singular. So we can copy it right here. But you don't have to. You can also just find the stem and add the endings, and you'll end up with the same thing. So to find the stem from portavi, all we have to do is ignore the ending, which is that long I. Every other letter except that long I is part of the stem. So I'm going to put portal in all the other boxes. Down here for dormivi, if I do the same thing, I remove the long I, I'm left with the stem for the perfect tense, dormiu. So I'm also going to put that in all the boxes. Okay. Now we're ready to add our endings. These are the only two steps. You just have to find the correct stem, the stem from the third principal part, and then add the perfect tense endings. While these are slightly different from the endings we've seen in present and imperfect, our normal personal endings, you'll actually recognize 4 of these endings have those personal endings that you know if you look closely. So you'll see in the third person singular we still have T. In the first person plural we still have mus. Second person plural we still have tis. And we still have NT in the third person plural. The dictionary definition, just like in present tense, is also the first person singular. So really, if you have the dictionary definition, you already have the first form and you only need to come up with the other 5. So now I'm going to add the endings in a second color. So here are the completed perfect tense forms. You can see that for both verbs, regardless of conjugation, the forms are just made up of the stem and the ending. You can also see that whether you decide to copy the third principal part or whether you decide to copy just the stem and then to add the endings individually, you end up with the same thing in the first person singular either way. And that's how you do perfect tense.